could see why Claire had fallen for him. But as we hung out more, something unexpected started to stir inside me. I couldn't deny the attraction I felt toward him. It felt wrong, but the more I tried to push it away, the stronger it became. I never told Claire, of course. I never thought it would lead to what it did. One night, after a few too many drinks at a party, Lucas and I found ourselves alone in the kitchen. The tension between us was palpable. There were no words at first, just lingering glances. Then he kissed me. It was everything I had imagined and more, and I knew immediately that I had crossed a line. I pulled away quickly, terrified at what I had just done. Lucas was different now. He wasn't the guy I had seen with Claire. He was someone else. I was confused, guilty, but I couldn't stop thinking about him. After that night, I couldn't look at Claire the same way. We went on as if nothing had happened, but everything felt off. I avoided Lucas, but he would find ways to reach out, subtle texts, messages in our group chats. He would remind me of that night, and it was clear he wanted more. I wasn't sure what I wanted, but every time I saw him, the pull was stronger. I kept thinking of Claire, but the attraction to him wouldn't go away. And that guilt, oh, the guilt. I started to question everything. Our friendship, my feelings for Lucas, and who I was becoming. It was a week later when I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to talk to Lucas. I needed to understand what this was. I arranged to meet him at a quiet cafe, away from everyone. The conversation was awkward at first, but then he laid it all out. "I know this is messed up," he said, "but I can't stop thinking about you." His words hit me like a ton of bricks. I wanted to run, to tell him I couldn't do this, but a part of me didn't want to walk away. We kissed again, this time without hesitation. I knew I was making a mistake, but I couldn't stop. I started lying to Claire, keeping my distance. I told her I was busy, that I couldn't hang out as much. I made excuses, anything to avoid spending time with her, because every time I saw her, I felt like I was hiding something huge from her. But the more I lied, the more the guilt consumed me. I had become someone I didn't recognize, but Lucas was right there, always pushing for more. He wanted to be with me, to be honest with Claire, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. How could I? It would ruin everything. As the days went on, the cracks in our friendship started to show. Claire noticed the distance between us, but I brushed it off. It wasn't until one night when we were out at a bar that she confronted me. "Are you avoiding me?" she asked, her voice hurt. "You've been so distant lately." I panicked, made up some excuse, but the look in her eyes stayed with me. I knew she was starting to suspect something was wrong. I couldn't keep lying to her, but I didn't know how to tell her the truth. The worst part came when Claire and I had plans to hang out, just the two of us. But Lucas messaged me, asking if I wanted to meet up. I was torn, pulled in two different directions. I stood her up. I told Claire I couldn't make it. Something came up. I went to see Lucas instead. That night, Claire sent me a message. "We need to talk." I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. I knew she had figured it out. I I met Claire the next day. She looked at me, eyes red from crying. "Is it true?" she asked. I couldn't answer her. I couldn't lie anymore. And then she said it. "You're dating Lucas, aren't you?" My heart sank. I nodded, unable to speak. The silence between us was suffocating. She didn't yell, didn't scream, but the hurt in her eyes was more than I could bear. "You're my best friend," she said quietly. "How could you do this to me?" After that day, everything changed. Claire and I barely spoke. The guilt ate me alive. I tried to apologize, tried to make things right, but nothing felt like enough. I lost her, and I knew it. Lucas and we tried to make it work, but it wasn't the same. I couldn't enjoy the relationship knowing what I had done. I couldn't stop thinking about Claire, how she was hurt because of my actions. I was trapped in a cycle of regret. Months passed, and I tried to move on with Lucas, but it never felt right. The guilt was always there, hanging over me. I finally realized something. There was no future in this relationship. I couldn't keep betraying my best friend and pretending everything was fine. I had to end things with Lucas, and I had to make amends with Claire. I reached out to her, but it was too late. She had already moved on. We couldn't go back to how things were, and I didn't blame her. I had lost one of the most important relationships in my life. Time passed, and I learned to live with the consequences of my actions. I knew I had to rebuild myself and become a better person. Claire and I never went back to being best friends, but maybe that's okay. Sometimes you lose people, and that's just part of life. I don't regret everything with Lucas, but I regret the way I handled it. I'll never forget the lesson it taught me. Don't let temptation destroy what's truly important. And sometimes, the hardest thing is to let go. Months passed, and I found myself standing at a crossroads. My life had changed so much since that fateful night when I kissed Lucas, and everything I once believed in seemed shattered. Claire and I had barely spoken in weeks. I couldn't undo the past, but I couldn't keep living with the regret either. I needed closure, not just with her, but with myself. One afternoon, I reached out to Claire again, asking if we could meet. I wasn't expecting things to be the same, but I needed to face the consequences of my actions head on. When I arrived at the cafe, I saw her sitting at a table, looking just as I remembered. Strong yet vulnerable, just like the first time we met. Her eyes flickered with caution, but there was a sense of curiosity too. It was clear that she hadn't fully healed, but I had to try. I owed her that much. "I've thought about what happened every single day," I said, voice trembling. "I've hurt you in ways I never imagined, and I know I can't fix it, but I want to try. I'm sorry, Claire. I'm so sorry for everything." She looked at me, and for a moment, the air was thick with tension. But then, slowly, she nodded. "I don't know if we'll ever go back to what we were," she said quietly, "but I appreciate your apology. It's a start." It wasn't the happy ending I'd hoped for, but it was real. I could feel a weight lifting off my shoulders. The friendship I had lost wasn't something I could ever fully recover, but this was the beginning of my own healing. I would never forget the lessons I learned. The price of secrecy, the cost of betrayal. matters most. As Claire walked away that day, I realized that sometimes letting go is the hardest but most necessary step in moving forward. I had learned from my mistakes, and though the road ahead would still be difficult, I knew that I was on the path to becoming a better person. That's all for today. Please leave any comment under the video. It will help our channel grow. If you don't subscribe now, we probably won't see you again. But if you do subscribe,